Roth here, and I'm going to introduce you that most of you, I have an idea, don't know him, but I've gotten to know him because we just did a television show together. It'll be aired during the week of October 26th. His name is Ivan Tuttle, and 35 years ago, he had an experience of going to hell and to heaven, and he had information downloaded to him that is absolutely phenomenal. I know his pastor. I've checked with him. He said that he's an extremely reliable prophet. Ivan called me a few days ago, and he said, Sid, I just had an experience with God in which it was almost like I was watching a movie of what would happen if Joe Biden became president of the United States. And then I don't know if I told Ivan this, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let him do that. The reason is I didn't think Biden would win. And number two, it was too scary. But when President Trump said publicly, after I heard this word from Ivan, exactly what Ivan saw in this movie or vision, I felt, woe is me if I don't let you hear this. Ivan, what did the president recently say that you told me?
Well, Sid, there were quite a few things that he said. First of all,
but you said it before him.
Yeah, I said it before.
Are you his speechwriter?
Not exactly, no. But I said it the day before he came out with it, yes. And what I talked about was what's going to happen if Biden and Kamala Harris get into office. And
by the way, this is important. You went to heaven and hell 35 years ago. Why now are you talking about it? Why not 35 years ago?
Well, Sid, there's a lot of reasons. One, I wasn't ready for it. And two, the world wasn't ready for it. The things that were going to be coming out and what God was giving me, that he said, this is what you need to release. The things that I saw had to wait till the proper time and the appointed time.
All right. In October 26th, we'll release all that show. But right now, the thing that is pressing is this presidential election. You know from God who's going to win, but you saw this. Explain, was it a vision? Tell me the circumstances.
I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was exactly at 4:58 a.m. in the morning, because I looked at the clock and I woke up. I usually don't wake up that early, but I woke up, I looked at the clock, and all of a sudden I was in the middle of watching what was going on. It was like a huge movie production, and I was right in it, watching it happen. I saw what would happen. Now, here's
tell me the one or two of the things that you saw, and then President Trump said the exact thing you saw.
Well, I saw how China was going to own the United States.
Really?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I've seen that, but President Trump actually used that terminology.
The exact same words, yes. And then the other exact same phrase that he used was how Russia was upset about us fracking, and and how Biden then would get rid of that so that they could come in and they could be a superpower for oil and natural gas because of their connection with Iran.
Well, now you tell me what you saw in this, I'm going to call it movie.
Yes. It was like a movie. I mean, it was so real. It's like you could just reach out and touch everything.
Was it in color?
Oh, yes, it was in color. Yeah, it was.
Was it more than one-dimensional?
Yes.
Was it three-dimensional?
It was three-dimensional. It was like being in it. It was like you could just reach out and touch somebody, you know. I mean, I was watching this exactly how it happened. And here's what happened. When all of a sudden it opened up, and I saw the date, February 2022. February 2022. That if they take over, if they were to get into office, what they would do, and it would really be
That is the Democrats. Go
the
ahead.
Democrats, it would really be more Kamala Harris than Biden, because he'll be kind of like quieted down. He's like a puppet with them right now, and that's what's going to happen. And so what they're going to do is they're going to allow, and I watched this happen, they allowed Russia, to do some things from the east, and I'll explain that in a second. But the big thing at first was I saw, and I was looking, and I could see on the West Coast how China was coming in, and as China was coming in, they were just buying everything they could. Every business, starting from the West Coast, just going straight through the United States.
They've actually been doing this for some time.
Oh, this will be, they're going to, because Biden and Kamala Harris are going to open up all the borders, they're going to open up all the walls, they're going to overturn everything that Trump has, including our taxes. They're going to overturn everything,
including our tax break that he gave.
Our tax break, yes, and all of the different things that he has set up with other countries. They'll just get rid of all of it. They'll get rid of everything. They'll open the borders. They'll be defund the police is not even what you would call it. It's going to be worse than that. It's going to be worse than defunding them. But what's going to happen is that China is going to start sending people over as well, not just buying the place. But here's what happens is that they are setting up for Biden and Kamala Harris and some other people in that party so that they'll be financially set. And that's what will happen if they move in. Now, that would be illegal normally, but they can make the rules the way they want to make them so that they can make it so that, oh, well, I'm not in office anymore. I can take this money. So I watched this as they moved in. And, I mean, it was scary. I mean, they literally took over. And we had the riots that are worse than what they are now. I wouldn't even call it a riot. It would just be, Sid, it's just chaos is what happened. Now, it really turns loose on February of 2022. That's when it's going to just go haywire. It's going to take them a little over a year to just unwind everything and let everything become lax. And China's going to rush right in. They've got to rush in quick. And then Russia, speaking of rushing, Russia is going to go ahead and start supplying natural gas and oil because they're making a pact with Iran. And we're going to make a pact with Russia and Iran as well in order to get that oil at a cheap price to come into the United States. So we're going to be doing this. Well, it's not cheap, trust me. It's going to be up there. But for kind of making deals and making bargains and everything, that's what we're going to do. So what's going to happen is that Russia is going to actually raise the prices. They're going to keep raising the price. So everybody on the East Coast, a lot of people on the East Coast heat with heating oil, like kerosene almost. And those prices are going to go sky high. And the people are not going to be able to afford it because so many businesses are going to be out of business anyways by then. And there's going to be, all they want you to do is depend on the state. And in February of 2022, that's when chaos really enters in. China will be coming from the West Coast. Russia's basically hitting from the East Coast. And they're going to take over the United States. They really are. And we're going to let them. If Biden and Kamala Harris get in, we just open the door and say, please come in. And they will own everything we have. Everything. All these big buildings that we have. Government buildings. Everything. They're going to own. Now, Russia's going to get their fair share too. Not as much. But China's really going to own it. And China has been wanting to take over the United States for years. Not just our economy. They want the United States. They're going to move over. Now, Sid, I didn't finish explaining this part to you, and I apologize. But one of the things they're going to do, too, is they're going to create chaos in Asia. I'm talking about South Korea. I'm talking about Japan. Those countries are going to be under such heavy persecution in so many ways. And they're going to try to move their people in. And that's what they're going to do. And that's how they're going to do it, starting from the West. For us, it's the West, where China's coming in. And you're going to see it happen because all throughout California, all throughout the state of Washington, Oregon, those main states over there, it's going to be just total chaos. Things are going to happen. It's unreal. But that's not, we can't allow that to happen. So that's the worst part of it. Sid. That's what they're going to do.
Well, I have to tell you, Ivan. I have to tell you what I asked Ivan after he told me this. I asked him two questions. How long would it take for America as we know it to be as dismantled as you saw in that movie?
Sid, it's only going to take a year, a little over a year from the time. Well, you got to realize that once they drop everything that has been going on for the last 4 years, once they get rid of everything, then this chaos comes in. It just takes a year for it to happen, a little over a year.
President Biden will briefly transfer power to Vice President Kamala Harris today, as he'll be under anaesthetic for what's being described as a routine colonoscopy. The White House says the procedure is part of the president's annual medical checkup. Our correspondent Joe Pike is live in Washington for us. So, acting President Kamala Harris, then, Joe.
Exactly, Sarah. That in itself is historic. The first time, I believe, that we've had a female US president, albeit very briefly. Joe Biden is due to head off this morning, US time, to the Walter Reed Medical Center, about half an hour outside Washington, probably a little bit quicker if you're traveling as president. That is the same place where President Trump stayed for a few days last year when he tested positive for COVID-19. Now, we know that Joe Biden is, of course, the oldest man to serve as president. He is 78. He turns 79 tomorrow. And just before he became president, his doctor did tell us that he was fit to serve in that role, but was being treated for a number of conditions: non-valvular atrial fibrillation, high cholesterol, gastroesophageal reflux, and seasonal allergies. This means, as I say, that Kamala Harris, his vice president, will be in charge. The power will be transferred to her for a brief period. And because of that, she will be working from her office in the West Wing, close to the centre of power at this key time. And the White House are very keen to make it clear this is a process set out in the Constitution, and this has happened many times before. They point certainly to the presidency of George W. Bush. He underwent the same procedure in 2002 and in 2007. It comes as at the same point as President Biden is trying to get a key bit of legislation, his Build Back Better bill, through the House of Representatives, this key social policy and climate change, a bit of legislation which some argue is at the heart of his presidency. But of course, he will not be able to make calls to persuade politicians, lawmakers, as they say here, to back it. Kamala Harris maybe, but she'll probably have her eyes on a few things as well, as she will be serving as president. So he will be undergoing that routine medical this morning, including a routine colonoscopy under anaesthetic. And the White House, Sarah, have told us we will get a written summary from them as to his medical condition later today.
One day, Jesus is coming. You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when He makes His personal appearance. My God, what if His appearance occurs on a Sunday morning? My prophetic word to you this morning